Sorry about the.
Hello and welcome to the Breaking Free podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Francis, and today I'm very grateful, very humbled to be joined by a former Sabotage. Is it Kayla or Kayleigh?
Kayleigh.
Kayleigh.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
it.
Beautiful. Kayleigh Castle, or Castle.
Yeah.
She's a self-sabotage coach. She's on TikTok. She's a bit of an influence on TikTok these days. She gets a lot of views. Apparently, I'm not on TikTok yet, but after our chat off air, I think I will be. She does a lot of work with women in helping them attract the right male partner, which is another form of self-sabotage, which is pretty much our topic of conversation today. She's had a pretty awesome journey from what I've read and from what I've heard. So I'm really looking forward to delving into this with Kayleigh today. And let's Kayleigh introduce yourself, and we'll get this show on the road.
Can you hear background noise?
Yeah, not really, but you'll be right.
But can you hear?
A little bit,
yeah.
Yeah, I can hear it. Yeah, not overly loud. It's fine. We're unfiltered here, unedited, so we're all good.
I'm in an Airbnb, so there's nowhere else to go. It's literally like
That's all right.
a room.
We can hear you clearly.
We're just gonna have to work through it.
We'll be right.
What did you ask me?
I just asked if you could introduce yourself a little bit to my listeners and
You've already done it. So I'm Kayleigh Castle.
Yeah.
I'm a TikTok specialist and a self-sabotage coach, but I don't really. That's not my title as such. I just TikTok queen, TikTok specialist. And then I run a Facebook group called Relatable. So I'm the founder of the group Relatable, and I help women break free from toxic cycles. Is my little title. I'm still in that place of, where you need to have your elevator pitch, like your 1 minute. I've not nailed it down yet. I'm not like what is it? I haven't found the words that pin down. But that is I break women free from toxic cycles. That is literally what I do inside the group, and that is my mission in life, is to break women free from, because they're trapped in cycles that they're not aware of, and not aware that it's something that is a pattern that can be broken, because obviously we've done subconscious work, and it's a case of planting the seeds. So I meet them on TikTok at their pain point, which is dating. They come into the group. When they land in the group, there's a welcome post that has like 5 videos that they need to watch. So there's a video on the subconscious, a video on what's anxious attachment style. Are you aware of attachment styles?
Yep.
So that's my niche, is women who have anxious attachment styles, who attract like narcissists. They're the women that I try to help. And so it's a case of they come into the group and most of them have no idea why they behave the way they behave, why they attract who they do. And it's a case of they're all on a different wavelength. So plant the seeds of the information, and then eventually stuff starts to germinate at different times. And then I go live and obviously share more information. TikTok's a short form. My Facebook is my long form, where I do the lives and give a much more in-depth masterclasses on what it is that they need to learn, because knowledge is power, but it's only power when you take action, which is what I always say. You have to educate yourself. Like, they'll say to me, I don't know why I'm behaving the way I am, and why me, why this guy? And I'm like, educate yourself.
Yeah.
Take responsibility for your own brain. Watch these videos, and then when you've watched those, come back to me, and we'll go from there.
I love it. What are some just for the listeners and viewers out there? What are some of those attachment styles that you're talking about? Let's delve into those, shall we?
So for me, in the book, there's in the book Attached, which is the theory that I follow, there's anxious attachment, avoidant, and secure. I think there's like an anxious avoidant in. They don't necessarily talk. Not sure they talk about it in the book, but I have in other material read that there's a fourth one, which is like a mix between the avoidant and the anxious. Or is it fearful?
Might be fearful.
It's basically like, rather than avoiding love, they're just completely fearful of it, and it's like, not on my agenda. Anxious attachment is the people who, so in relation to dating, the women that if the man doesn't text back, why is he not texting back?
Yeah,
You know,
issue today, isn't
checking,
it?
checking the phone. They're completely aware. You know, he was online at 9:30, and he's not read a message, and it's like now 25 to 10, and you know, where is he? What's he doing? That's like an anxious attachment. Then you've got avoidance, who are women who push good men away. So in my game, push good men away, but they don't know why. Like, you know, they want to get close, but as soon as someone gets close, they need the urge to pull away. And then you've got secure, which is where I want to get them to,
Yeah.
which is people who, you know, are able to effectively communicate their emotions on a adult level without fear of rejection or abandonment.
I love it. I love that. It's such a massive issue in today's society, dating, isn't it? Between women
I
and men.
think it's I don't even think it's just relationships. We've completely lost. I think there's a multitude of things going on. Effective communication.
Yeah.
We don't know how to effectively communicate our emotions. We're afraid to speak as truth. So, for example, anxious attachment. If you've got an anxious attachment, it's seen in society as, oh God, you know, stop being so needy. Why are you so
Yeah.
needy?
Yeah.
But actually, what they don't realize is it's an actual system inside the brain. That person can't help being that way. So if they're going to a relationship, they need to understand that they've got an anxious attachment, and they need to be able to effectively communicate it to be able to get their needs met by somebody else without freaking out. And a lot of women, it's like to be able to work with it, you've got to be aware of it to be able to manage it. But if you're not aware of it, it just becomes a real stickler for, not a stickler, but a pain point for anxiety. You know, it's something that, because they don't want to feel like that, they don't want to be anxious, they don't want to be needy, but they can't help it. So explaining to them where it comes from, why they've got it, and how to calm it down and how to get to a secure place. A lot of women are like, you know, they'll come into my group and they're like, I don't feel so crazy anymore. Like one of the biggest things from Relatable that I've found that helps women is the fact that they don't feel alone. They come into the group thinking, I feel like a crazy, like, you know, crazy single lady. And they come in and realize that actually there's 3,500 other women who are all doing exactly the same. And I'm like, you're not crazy. You're just not aware of your own behavior. And now you are, we can help you now.
I love that. If anyone's out there listening, please join the Relatable group. Sounds like a very awesome group. When you work with women, do you find that they also have self-love issues as well?
That is the core. That's the core. That's, you know, the pain point is, I can't get a man. I can't men are ghosting me. You know, I can't hold down a relationship. Why can't I get dates? You know, what am I doing wrong in dating? That's the surface level.
Yeah.
We understand that the reason that's happening for you is because your value, your worth, and you've got no love for yourself. So therefore your frequency is low. With you know, I don't know if the Hawkins scale of energy. So if anyone's listening to this, you know, the Hawkins scale of energy, all our emotions have an electric frequency, and that electric frequency is is controlled by your subconscious programming. So a lot of women come into the group, you know, they're absolutely stunning, and they think that they are confident. They're like, you know, I think I'm gorgeous, but that's not what's showing up for me. And I'm like, because consciously you think you're gorgeous, and that's 5%, but your subconscious that controls 95% of your behavior doesn't think you're confident at all. It thinks that, you know, and like you understand in the subconscious world, it all goes back to the attachment. And this is what I try to explain to them. You know, it's getting them to realize that everything goes back to pre-5. So by the time you were 5 years old, you've already got your blueprint for how you will act in relationships when you are an adult and you're having relationships. And that's the blueprint, isn't it? You know, pre-5. And getting them to understand that and going back to those, whatever it is that caused them to have the relationship issues now, because attachment in childhood, and I follow the work of Gabor Mate. He's the trauma specialist. His work mixed with the book Attached and I can't what she called, Dr. Levine, I think it is. Those two like schools of science alongside each other are really great at explaining, like, pre-5, the trauma that you went through. And I explain to these women, when I say trauma, it's not a case of your mum abandoned you, or you were left at an orphanage, or it's not trauma in the sense of the adult mind, how the adult sees trauma. When you say the word trauma, you think, oh, well, abuse,
neglect,
like you think of all like really, but actually to a baby, trauma could be, I wasn't picked up, I was crying,
correct,
and you left me to cry. That is traumatic to a baby. So I'm like,
Mm.
there's these women like, yeah, well, my mum and dad were happily married, but why do I keep attracting these men? And I'm like, because it's all about the attachment. It's not, it's beyond. And explain to them that, your memory is 3%. The memory that you have with the pictures in your mind of what you know as your memory is 3% of your memory. The rest is stored in the cells of your body, and it's the cells of your body that are being triggered when you're going out dating, and the guy's not texting you, and you're you feel all anxious, and you feel, and that you don't want to feel anxious, and it's ridiculous. That you should be worrying that the fact that this man hasn't texted you back, you don't know him, he's a stranger, why am I bothered? Well, the reason that you're bothered is because it's got nothing to do with him. It's to do with what that man is triggering in you, which stems usually from a fear of rejection or a fear of abandonment. You think because that man isn't texting you, he's rejected you, or he's never going to come back. I says, and to your limbic, so your subconscious is programmed by the time that you're 5. So I explain to people is basically you're walking around with a 5-year-old brain. Most people, if you've not done subconscious work, if you've not, consciously done that work to reprogram, your brain is 5 years old. And a 5-year-old thinks rejection equals death, possible death. So the reaction that you're having, the reason you've got that anxiety and the reason you feel so worked up is because that part of you is genuinely in fear of possible death. You've now got to reparent yourself. You are now, most women in my group are 30, 40, 50. And I've said to them, you've now got to understand that you are now responsible. Like, what happened to you wasn't your fault, but as an adult, you are now responsible for how you react with that and how you work with that. And you have to reparent that little 5-year-old child to understand that I'm not going to die, because just because a man doesn't text me back, it doesn't mean I'm going to die. And it's a case of, reprogramming with repetition and consistency. And I'm starting to see the fruit that I'm getting to the point in the group now where I'm really starting to see women progress. And it's really beautiful, because I created the group in October, and there's 3,500 women now, and they're all at different stages. There's some women that still don't get it, but they're watching, but there's some women that have they've watched every single video that I put out, every single live, and they're like, and now they're thirsty for knowledge. They're like, what shall I read? Where shall I go? What shall I do? And I love it when they turn around and they say to me, I've stopped dating. I know it's, I've stopped dating, I'm working on me now. And I'm just like, hallelujah, that's, that's it. Like, because they're constantly looking outside of themselves. Well, how do I get this man? How do I get him? And I'm like, you're looking outside for the answers. And I know it sounds cheesy as hell, but I'm like, you've got to understand that it's how you feel about you. And I will I've paid £25,000, best part, probably a bit more, in coaches, mentors, books, you name it, right? About £25,000 I've invested, and every single book, course, mentor at the core is, you don't love yourself. Like, and at first I was chasing a different answer. I was like, oh, it's got to be something else. What a cop out. What, they're just fobbing me off. Like, what a waste of money that was. But it's the core of every book, in whatever shape or form. Recipes is, you're not enough, or the whole thing is your value and the way you see yourself, and the words that you use about yourself and the words you speak. It started with the word, and people have no idea of the power of what they speak about themselves. And so there's a lot of seeds to plant that have to germinate to get them to understand how to fix their dating life. But by the time they germinate, they know it's not about the dating life anymore. They know it's a journey of self-discovery, really, of understanding, refining, because we're all born confident. So it's not a case of you have to fake it. It's a case of you've got to rediscover it, and you've got to realize that actually we're all born with that confidence. We just take on so many other people's beliefs.
Yes.
That we feel like we're not. And it's like, they're limiting beliefs and they're not yours, they're somebody else's. I explained to us like a Santa's sack, and through childhood, you've taken on your auntie's opinion and your teacher's opinion and your friend's opinion and your dad's opinion, and that sack gets heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier. It gets so heavy that you feel like, you can't help but be weighed down by all these other people's beliefs. And it's that realization that you can just let go.
Yeah.
Just let go. But it's so much easier said than done.
Yeah.
Like I love the term, you just gotta let go, right? It used to really piss me off in the beginning when people are like, let go. And I'm like, what do you mean let go? Like, how do you let go? But it really is that easy. Like, but it's getting through the programming that's been put into your mind from society and your environment to get to that point where you don't have to absorb everything that comes into your mind. We have, is it 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day?
Mm-hmm.
And the women that are in my group, I'm like, what I explained, you are consumed by absorbing and living in those thoughts when none of them are yours. You don't have to take any notice of any of those thoughts. And they're like, but I live in those thoughts. And I'm like, yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's why you've got anxiety. That's why you drink, and that's why you take drugs or whatever it is that you're doing, because you've got to understand, you've got to learn to differentiate between you and your thoughts, which
Correct.
we all know it's a process. I explain to these women, it's all this stuff. And that's why I created the group, because when I started my journey of like understanding that it was the fact that I didn't love myself, or I didn't think I was lovable, as to why I was attracting toxic relationships and getting into toxic cycles myself, because it's my story. When I started that journey, I felt so alone. Like my friend, I'd already cut out a lot of my friends anyway, but no one understood what the hell I was on about, like awakening and subconscious. And then I started, even when I started talking the science, they were just like, yeah, we're not interested. And so I went on the journey and I did it by myself, but then created the group because it was a case of, I want other people to realize that you're not alone. Like this is a journey that so many other people are taking. You don't have to feel like you're on your own. And that's how it was. And that's how it was formed.
That's awesome. How powerful was it for you to rediscover your own self-worth and your own self-love during your journey? Because I feel like we can't be coaches or anything if we haven't lived this ourselves. And I feel like we've obviously jumped the queue to help others because we obviously felt called to. But just in terms of your own self-love and your own self-worth, how was that experience for you, rediscovering that for yourself? And how powerful was that?
It's everything. It was, and I think at my core, I've always wanted to help people. Like, that's, always been when I hadn't done the work previously, that was in a form of people pleasing. Like I always put other people's needs before my own. I was always, trying to nurture people and help people in a toxic way and in an unhealthy way, because it was, putting them before myself. And then I started, Jason set off someone put me in touch with Jason's information. That then started getting me reading and looking at other stuff. And I came across this woman who was an energy healer, and she was like, and I said, remember, she's like, what is it? And I says, I really just want to help people. She was like, you do know that's a thing. Like people do want to help. Because I thought it was crazy. I was like, I've got this really like strong urge to want to help people. Is that like a thing? She was like, yeah, there's a multi-billion-pound industry built on self-help. And I was just like, oh. And, I'd never the self-help industry is literally a multi-billion-pound, and it's growing by the billions every year. And until you start your own journey, you're not aware of it. You're not aware that these books that teach you how to change your thoughts, and you're like, how have I gone, 30 years? And
yeah,
imagine how powerful you'd be if I came across that when I was a teenager.
What about just in school?
That's, it's just, I just think, well, that's why they don't want people to know, because it's power, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
Like at the end of the day. And then he said, my journey. How powerful was it? So yeah,
To rediscover your own self-worth and your own self-love.
This woman said to me, to help other people, you have to help yourself first. You can't become a healer as such, whether it's energetic or helping in your, if you haven't helped yourself first. And so, I spent a full 12 months submerged in a consistent pattern of get up, meditate, walk, pray, eat healthily, exercise, cut out any negativity, and I just worked on me for a solid 12 months. And then once I felt like I'd cracked up and, the reasons to why I was behaving there was going back to my subconscious and reprogramming and doing that work, doing Jason's course. It was after 12 months, I was like, right, okay, now how do I help other people? And then at first it was a case of, I knew that I'd had this information, I was able to help myself, and now I need to teach other people how to help themselves. But how do I go about doing that? Like, how do I build an audience? Like, how do I talk to people? Where do I go from here? Because previous to 2021, I had no Facebook. I was very much an anti-social media, no Facebook, no tech, no, I had a simple phone. Like, I don't want to be tracked and all that jazz. But I just kept getting this message that was like, you have to get on camera. That's how you're going to help people. I kept having these downloads when I was out walking, like, get on camera. And I was like, I'm not. And I just remember speaking to myself, I'm not getting on camera. I'll do anything, but I am not going on. I'm not doing video, not a chance. And it took me from January 2021 to November 2021 to pick up a camera and finally, like, start doing videos. And I did Facebook Lives at first. And the adrenaline was so strong that after I did the live, it put me to bed like 3 days in a row, because the adrenaline was, the fight or flight was so strong.
Yeah.
I probably thought it was going to die. It was ridiculous. And I just said, right, I'm going to go live every day for 2 weeks until that fear goes, because I know it's not real.
Yeah.
So, and how you get past that is by repeating it to make sure that you realize that you're not going to die. So it took me about 2 weeks of going live, and then I eventually picked up the phone and did my first TikTok in, I think, end of February 2022. But when I started my TikTok journey, I knew, because of the work that I did in marketing, that to get to people without having to invest a lot of money into advertising and all that jazz, which I didn't have yet, I had to get on TikTok. That was what, that's where everything led me. But at that time, I didn't have a message. I didn't know who my audience was. I didn't know what it is that I wanted to say, who I was wanting to help. So I just got on TikTok and I was literally, filming my dinner, my exercise routine. I was like, this, because I just knew that I had to show up and be consistent on TikTok, not for my audience, but for the algorithm, because that was what's in the beginning. That's what's important, is showing up for TikTok. So TikTok sees you as a content creator and they take you seriously. It doesn't matter what you post out at the beginning. It's just being consistent, that you show up and you create. And then eventually I started to be more vulnerable and authentic, and I started to share my stories. And I went on a date. I went on this date, and everyone was super interested in my dating life. And when I was talking about my dating, I wasn't talking about, I just went on a date and it went good, it went bad. I was talking in the sense of my self-awareness had changed. Like, I could see the difference in the men that I was dating. I could see where I was being triggered. I could see the journey that I'd taken previous to that was really being reflected in my dating life. And it was that I shared, the fact that I could see the difference in myself in the 12 months and the work that I still needed to do. Dating really works as a reflection for me on the work that still needed to be done, and on the fact that, the first guy I started dating and I preach to women on TikTok, 3 months is the golden rule. Don't get attached, don't get involved for the first 3 months, treat them like a friend. I'm really great at giving advice. I didn't take this advice at the beginning, because it was basically how I went about it was on TikTok. I'm not a dating expert, but what I am providing on my channel is from experts. But what I've had to learned for myself about myself, I'm now sharing with you as I do it, as I learn. So I'm not coming from a place of a pedestal of perfection of, hey, I'm married and this is how I did it. It's, listen, this is what's working for me. This isn't what working for me. And this is what I've now discovered. I'm sharing it with you. And that was the path that I took. And then eventually by the August, I had a message by that point. It was, right, okay, which came about so I started in the end of Feb, just literally posting rubbish, like, walking my dog or whatever. And then the dating started in April 2022, and I was sharing it from a personal point of view, just me sharing my story. And then a man that I used to, so I say I had an affair, but he was married, I wasn't, like 6 years prior. So in my 20s, I had this really toxic relationship with a married man who really, like, he was the catalyst for me understanding that that something wasn't right. The fact that I was allowing someone to treat me so badly, who was also married, wasn't giving me what I needed, but yeah, I was putting up with, like, being treated like absolute rubbish. And I was just like, why am I doing this? Why? There's all these men, right? All these men in the world. Why am I choosing this married man who really couldn't give a shit about you? Why are you so hung up on him? And that was like planting the seed in the beginning of I didn't do anything about it then, but I knew that I had an issue. Does that make sense? And so that was 6 years prior, but the woman that he was married to, I found out in the July that she'd killed herself. She committed suicide.
Oh, jeez.
And it was like confirmation, because when I was in I don't want to say a relationship, but whilst I had a connection to that man, he made me think that I was crazy, right? Like it was all in my head. So for that to happen, it was like, it wasn't in my head. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know that woman's story. I don't know what else went on in life, but it was a catalyst for the 6 years prior. I cut him out of my life because he was like, I knew what, like, I was like, I can't let someone change, get into my head like that. And I cut him out of my life. And I remember thinking, if he's managed to get into my head in such a short space of time, in like 6 months, and change how I feel about me on it so deeply, imagine how she feels like after 10 years of being with him. And I never reached out. I never was like, listen, because obviously why would you do that? Like, I'm the person in the wrong. But really, woman to woman, I was the victim and I was the one that was going through something, and so was she. He was, he's living his best life. Really, I should have connected with her and been like, I know what you're going through, and I can. But you don't think like that when hindsight is a beautiful thing. But that really triggered me as the fact that I never reached out. I never was like, I know how he gets in your head. Does that make sense? And I think part of me felt, and I don't know if it's true, part of me felt like I was the only person that knew what she was going through, because they created this picture that everything was perfect and she had, but I was probably the only woman that had experienced on a level of what she was going through. And that was another reason why I created Relatable, was I need to help. If I can't help her, I need to help women like her, which is women who get, stuck in toxic cycles, who are attracted to narcissists, manipulators, and they know that it's unhealthy, and they know that they don't want to be with this man, but they can't help themselves. And that's my audience. They're the women that's my mission now, is to get them to understand why they behave like that, and that they don't need to stay in that pattern. And now this, 3,500 women in the group, and so many of them have, the people who've left, toxic marriages, these women who, have really started the journey and they're doing the work. And it's like, I get messages every single morning. I wake up to messages of like, if I hadn't found you, I wouldn't have done XYZ, and I wouldn't have understood this. And that's, for me, when I realized how powerful TikTok is, the fact that I'm now able to help people. It's not cost me any money to help them, and I'm able to reach people who I would have never have met in my life. But you know, it's that platform has allowed me to share my word, share my story, which has then helped other people. And I think that's now why I'm a TikTok specialist, and I try to hammer into people all the time. Like, yes, I understand that it's a social media platform, but you've got to understand the power behind it. That if you've got a skill, and if you're a coach, and if your passion in life is to help people in whatever way, shape, or form, you must be on that platform because your audience is on there. Like, go speak your truth, go spread the word. Because that is the only way that we win is by, you know, and you can't do that. Has to be done if you want to get on a level of changing the world. It's one person at a time, but get on that platform and you've got a video that goes out that's guaranteed to be seen by at least 200 people every time. You know, that's you wouldn't, if you were in a room with 200 people, an audience of 200 people in a room and they were all bums on seats, like, you wouldn't turn your head up at 200 people, would you? You'd be like, oh my God, like, this is a really massive opportunity. And that opportunity happens every time you post a video on TikTok.
You just given me some live food for thought here. I'm currently not on TikTok, and you've just motivated me to go on TikTok after this. So thank you, Kayleigh.
All right.
Yeah.
I've just waffled on at you for a long time there.
No, it's fine. I really appreciate how authentic and how raw you were talking about that stage of your life. And yeah, and then you sort of switched the gears, and you've sort of motivated me to make a TikTok account and start pushing out my content more. I've got videos now that have been seen by a couple of thousand people on Instagram. So just imagine
they're doing that well on Instagram, they will go viral on TikTok.
Yeah.
If your message is getting across to that many people on Instagram, that means your content's really good and that it will be pushed on TikTok, definitely.
All right. Well, I'm going to jump on TikTok. For those out there that are going to give us a follow Kayleigh, and give me a follow once I sort mine out. Just in terms of your journey though, Kayleigh, what was the best sort of habit or ritual that you did that you stuck to that eventually helped you? I don't know, I guess sort of helped you. Then, so I'm just trying to get this question right here. What was the number one habit or ritual that you persisted with and stuck to that helped you on your journey?
Meditation, which is just a corny answer, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
I remember right at the beginning.
How do you meditate?
For me, when I was up until 31, I had a multitude of voices in my head. Like, to me, there was 5 Kayleighs and they all spoke to each other all the time. Like, there was noise inside this brain consistently my entire life. To me, that was a constant noise. Imagine like when you go into a pub or a social setting and it's loud and there's all that noise, right? That was what was in my head all my life from the I don't remember it being any different. I remember having this conversation with a friend who's 10 years older than me. And she was like, what? And I was like, I thought that was normal. She was like, I don't have that. And I went, what do you mean? She was like, there's no noise in my head. I said, what do you mean there's no noise in your head? She was like, I can just think of nothing. I said, what do you mean you can think of nothing? I said, I've never been, there is constantly like at least 100 things going on inside this brain all at once every day, like from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep. It's absolutely exhausting, right?
Wow.
She was like, yeah, that doesn't need to be that way. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm like, is that not normal? She was like, no, have you thought about meditating? I was like, what the hell's meditating? Like, because at this point I didn't believe in God at this point either. So I'd never prayed or anything. I'd never taken the time to understand quietening the mind. She was like, right, just start. I said, well, where do I start? She went, just start with your breath, don't you?
Yeah.
Literally, she says, just go walking, and all you concentrate on is you breathing in, you breathing out. That's it, right? And so literally, I started walking the dog 3 times a day, and I literally was chanting in my head, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. Like there was no guided meditation or anything. I was literally just like, just going to follow the breath.
Yeah.
And I did this alongside doing Marissa Peer's 21-day confidence challenge, which I was doing at home alongside the walking. And I can't remember what day it was in. I was out walking the dog, and I remember just stopping in the middle of the field, and I burst into tears because there was not it stopped.
Yeah.
I just, in this moment, I was just like, oh my God.
That's so powerful.
And it was like, and as soon as I experienced that and realized that that's the way I'd been living, I didn't need to live that way. That became an obsession and an addiction for me. That was like, I need more. Now there's a different way and a different path. That became it became an obsession. That was it. It was like, right, I need more of this. Where do I go? What do I do? So I started with, I downloaded Insight Timer. And I love a guy called Andrew Johnson, who's a Scottish man. Great voice. I absolutely love his meditations. A guy called David David G and then an I. His meditation, that man is like spiritual beyond, like, you might as well be floating. He's got like long white hair, long white beard. His vibe is just beautiful. His meditations are amazing. And I was meditating for like 2 to 3 hours a day. Like,
wow.
I was doing one in the morning, then I was doing Joe Dispenza.
Yeah, he's good.
I came across his work, read his book. What's his book called? Being Superhuman.
That's it. Yep.
Supernatural or Superhuman, something like that.
Yeah.
And I read his book. Like, mouth hit. I was out walking, always out doing the breath work whilst walking. Mouth, jaw to the floor, like what? Blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. Which led me to Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now. Again, absolute epiphany, blew my mind. So those books, along with the meditation, along with the walking, and then it all became an obsession, and now it's just like, it still is.
Yeah. This is part of your daily routine now. Yeah, same as me too. Yeah, it's part of my daily routine too.
It was my day. I've said to my friend the other day, and I said, because when you get into business, and you're helping people, like I said, my meditation's fallen by the wayside. Up until a couple of months ago, I was still meditating every day, and the other day I thought, I've not meditated every day for like a few months, and it's because you get busy, don't you, and you become obsessed with sharing your message and helping people. And I'm like creating masterclasses, and I'm creating a membership and all this other stuff, and it's like I wake up and straight away my brain's like, right, check.
Yeah, I'm the same.
And actually, when you follow Dr. Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, quantum physics, you the science behind it is there's energy in this matter, right? So there's solid and there's energy. And when we're meditating and we're in that zone, we are pure energy. So we are in control of what we create. When you take your attention off that, you matter. So you are solid. You can't change that because you're solid. And so really meditation is actually how you can fully control your life. So it's, it needs to be a number one priority, really, because that's where you make the changes of your own life and other people's, if you're a healer or a coach or whatever is your modality.
Yeah, especially us coaches, like sometimes we just put so much effort into helping people, we just forget sometimes to help ourselves. And what you just said before is very similar to my last few months as well. I've sort of just concentrated on just helping people and putting out content, doing all these things. And sometimes I just forget that I just need a moment to ground and relax and connect with myself again. So yeah, it's really
I'm literally staying. I booked a hotel tonight. And I try and do, and I for me, it's all about like a nice big bath. And I'm like, force myself that you will go and do not, like, because I'm constantly, if I'm not making TikToks, I'm in the group answering questions like this, all these women that are at, can you imagine how many notifications I have every day?
I couldn't imagine
5 hours just answering messages in the Facebook group. That's not including the masterclasses that I create inside Relatable that's to do with the dating. Alongside that, there's the tips that I teach other people how to use TikTok. It's a blink and the day's gone. So it's like I have to make this moment. I have to make these times where I'm like, I have to force myself to do nothing.
Yeah.
Like you have to like schedule in doing nothing, because if you don't, you end up get caught up in it, and you can't pour from an empty pot.
No, you can't.
My
That's
motto.
one of my biggest lessons. Spot on.
So
Well, that was an awesome chat, Kayleigh. I don't know how long we've gone for. Probably gone for about, I don't know,
I don't know. I
nearly
don't know
an
what's
hour.
it called. Hind leg up a donkey. Is that even the saying?
Just for some women out there, Kayleigh, I'll ask you 2 or 3 more questions, but this one has just come to me now. Just for you, what was your biggest form of self-sabotage? Like, what was the one thing you found really hard to break, but you broke it?
Lots. Drug, sex, alcohol, smoking.
Same.
You know, it was really difficult in the beginning because I quit drinking. And then I wanted to, because at the core of it is you don't feel like you're enough. You're not lovable.
Yep.
There will always be some form of, your brain will seek something else to bring you down, to cut you down. So you cut out the drinking, so then something else pops up. So then I cut out drinking and smoking. So then my eating ramped up, and I put on like nearly 2 stone in like 3 months. So by the time I started the coaching program in March, I was 2 stone heavier than I was I piled the weight on. So then it was like, and then because you haven't done the mind work yet, because I'd started, but I hadn't fully done it. Self-hatred because I got fat. I was like, well, what? So then you want to drink, then I wanted to drink more because I felt bad because I'd got fat, right? And it was like this cycle of, and then I cut out that, and then something else would come back in.
Yeah. I'm hearing you.
And do you know what? I'm still not perfect. I'm still now. I'll alcohol still hasn't been fully cut out. Like there's still the odd. Don't. Of course, I want to be alcohol free. I know how bad it is, but I also understand that it's a process. Like I'm so close compared to what I used to. To say alcohol was an everyday thing, now it's like once in a 3-4 months or whatever. It's not a daily occurrence. And I'm I'll get there eventually. It's like Marissa Peer in the beginning. Marissa Peer's a hypnotist. She understands that she's the queen of all this stuff, and she's like, I was addicted to chocolate for a chocolate and Diet Coke. It wasn't an overnight thing that she cut it out, and now she lives off bloody apples and peanut butter. But it didn't happen overnight, and I think that's what you've got to remember is having self-compassion for yourself for the progress that you're actually making. And that you will eventually get to the ultimate goal. But beating yourself up along the way, the self-criticism, that's the whether if you're on a healing journey and you're doing stuff but you're still criticizing yourself for the stuff that you like, you're not going to get anywhere. And that was that was a big lesson. I don't know if you've come across Louise Hay.
I have, yeah.
Oh my God, like her stuff. I'm like, she's not my idol. I'm like, I want to be her. That's what I want to create. What she did is how I want to.
You will.
Take my business, my passion, my mission is exactly how she did hers, which is just from an authentic place of help, and the money will come. Don't go into it from, I want to. Don't get me wrong, of course I want to make money, but before it was a case of what's going to make me the most money. Now it's just help the people, and the money will come.
Yeah, because you're doing you're of service to humanity.
It doesn't come necessarily from the people that you're helping, but energetically it will come from somewhere.
Yes.
And since I had that mentality, it's really got me out of a lack mindset, and now I'm able to. That's really starting to come to fruition now. Whereas last year I was very much in a lack mentality. It wasn't healthy.
Go with the flow. I love it. Yeah, it's awesome. I got another question for you too, just before we wrap things up. If there's a woman out there that's currently listening to this and is feeling quite like information overload, and she's like, I tick the boxes that Kayleigh was just reeling off, what would be your advice to that woman to start her journey?
Read. Read is especially for women, because I think for men, they're not naturally, because of the way they've been programmed in school, they're not natural readers. I don't think it comes to them. It's something they have to relearn. Does that make sense?
I agree with that.
A lot of boys, they're not interested in reading, are they?
Yep.
Whereas women, naturally, we do like to read. That might be a general stereotype, but
no, but you're right. I love reading now, but you are right.
That was because knowledge is power if you take action in it. But the reading for me was, it either confirmed what I'd already learned and it reaffirmed what I'd learned, or I was learning something new. So for me, like I said, Eckhart Tolle, Joe Dispenza's book, Happy Pocket Full of Money. These are like all the books that literally blew my mind, changed my life.
Yep.
Rich Dad Poor Dad. And a lot of them sound like they've got to do, but they're not about money. They're about the mindset. Og Mandino, absolutely beautiful man. His book, The Greatest Salesman in the World. A book called The Alchemist. Brene Brown's work, her book on vulnerability, and about the power of sharing your story and being authentic and just sharing. And because the biggest fear of humans isn't the fear of dying, it's, which we all think it is, it's actually the fear of being themselves.
Spot on.
So when you show up on social media sharing your story and you just think, oh, I'm just, I'm not doing anything major, actually what you're doing is giving other people permission to be themselves. And it's a lot bigger and more powerful than you actually give yourself credit for. And when I first started joining TikTok and I had this urge to share. So the story that I told you about the man that I had an affair with, I had this voice in my head that told me I had to share the story. And I was like, I'm not sharing that story. I'm not doing it. And it was like, you are. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not. Can you imagine putting that on TikTok? Like, how much backlash I'll get for that? Like,
yeah,
the other woman, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, go do it. And I was like, fuck. I did like a 5, and I thought, well, I'm gonna have to do it, right? Because that's God.
Yeah,
so
we're hooking up the same thing here, aren't we?
Yeah, so I did like these 5 little videos. It was a series of how this man made me feel, what that made me do, coming to the realization that I allowed him to treat me like that, like I was in victim mentality, and it was actually, I'm responsible because I allowed that person to treat me like that. That's on me, not him. And those 5 videos between them got something like 3 million views.
Wow.
And it was just me. So that's the power of it. It's when you share your story, and actually so many women got in touch with me, and I genuinely thought I was going to get like, and it wasn't. It was all like, wow, like as if, they kept saying I was brave. I was like, brave? Like, how is that brave? I'm not doing anything, I'm not saving lives. I'm not putting, why is that? I couldn't grasp why people thought that was brave. I thought it was a really weird thing to say. So I studied it because that's what we do. I was like, right, let's look at the psychology behind this.
Yeah.
And that's why Brene Brown's work, she is a shame researcher. And it was when you show up sharing your story about you, never mind what it is, it gives other people permission, and they not necessarily permission to get on TikTok and share their story, but just to be themselves. Like psychologically, that's what it does. And I was like, if I can just help people just by sharing my story, nothing else, I'm happy with that. If that helps people, then that's enough for me. And that's why I continue to then take it more seriously and share more stuff.
I love that. That was an awesome chat, Kayleigh. Thank you so much for jumping on. We've tried to make this chat happen a few times now, so I'm definitely glad that the same thing that we're hooked up to here. Obviously,
you're literally in the future.
I'm glad that the power source that we're hooked up to finally allowed us to connect and nearly dropped the microphone. That's how powerful this is. To make this awesome chat happen today. I'm so grateful that you were to jump on and share your story. Just one last quick one. Where can people find you, Kayleigh? We'll put the link to your stuff in the description box too, obviously, but where can people find you?
Thank you. So TikTok, I'm Queen Kayleigh Castle. That's my handle.
Queen.
And Queen Kayleigh Castle. That's what I call myself. And then Facebook is just Kayleigh Castle, and they're my 2 sources of where you'll find me, really. TikTok, everything else is all hooked up there. Emails on there.
Website.
The ways of getting in touch with me. And obviously the Facebook group is called Relatable. So if you're a woman that's resonated with whatever I've had to say in this story, come along to the group, join us. it's just women that
All over the world?
support each other through, going from A to B.
Are they all from all over the world?
All over the world, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Get a few more Aussies on there.
It's turning into a bit of a movement. It's a much more. I just thought that I was creating a space, but what's actually happening inside and the effect it's having on women is way bigger than I ever anticipated, and
that's awesome.
That's really cool.
All
so
right.
if you have these ideas of wanting to help people, you're a little bit scared, just do it, because it does have an effect.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you so much for our chat today, Kayleigh. That was just awesome. If there's anything else you'd like to leave the viewers and the listeners with, like a positive affirmation or something that they can take away from this chat today. No pressure at all. No.
That's self-criticism, that voice inside your head that judges yourself all the time is the biggest detriment to your life. If you can get control of not being mean to yourself, if you can just grasp that, if you can just stop yourself criticizing yourself, that's super powerful.
That is powerful. Thank you so much. Awesome chat, Kayleigh. We'll have to get you back on, I reckon, when you've gone viral again. We'll have to get you back on for another chat. Thank you so much.
I didn't say about the time I went viral for my car getting repossessed. That's another story.
We'll have to tell that one next time. Thank you so much, Kayleigh. I hope a lot of women out there feel inspired now to start their journey and start unlearning and relearning this amazing work. So thank you so much, and we'll definitely stay in touch and talk soon. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.